Welcome to the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Together we explore the vast landscapes of life, delving into the rich soil of experiences, sowing the seeds of curiosity, and harvesting the profound wisdom that each episode unfolds. Welcome to another podcast of Harvesting Wisdom. I'm your host, Mike McMahon. Today I am in Chateau Climont, and why don't you give us a little background history on yourself? Tell us, because I know you've gone to Cornell, you've been all over the planet doing this. Tell us about you.
Oh, about me, yes. So I have a scientific background, as you noticed. I did my engineering studies in France, and I went to Cornell. I did my career in strategy management, in telecoms and energy. So I discovered other sectors than wine. But wine has always been basically around me because yes, I drink. Well, actually, when I was a kid, I was surrounded by vineyards. I'm originally from Nîmes, in the south of France, surrounded by vineyards. Although my parents were not in the wine activity, but then I discovered wine 35 years ago, and then I appreciated that wonderful beverage, both its civilization, the wine, it's a part of our culture, but it's also it can be also very, very good. So I really appreciate it, and I
Were your parents wine drinkers?
Yes, my father was wine drinker. And so I discovered that by myself. I did my education in this field, also going some tasting classes and discovering by myself. I always like to discover new places by myself, exchanging with the winemakers. So I have no, for example, in my cellar, I have no wine that is not coming from a place that I know. And I think for me, the knowledge of the place, the knowledge of the winemaker who is making the wine, his philosophy, his principles, I think is important when I drink wine. And also because drinking wine is not only a technical experience of I drink a wine, I appreciate it, and I decompose the analysis and so on. No, it's for me, it's a conceptual experience. It's an experience when you drink wine. It must bring you back to souvenirs, to good moments you had, in the past with the same wine. For me, it's important. Wine has to be part of the life, and it's not just something that is in front of us that we have to analyze. It's more a companion, if you want, of a good lunch, of a good moment.
It can bring you back.
Exactly.
Someplace.
It's like a Madeleine, Madeleine de Proust,
Yeah. And it is funny because I started kind of the same way, although when I started drinking wine and I was in college, I would have dinner and I'd get an anaphylactic shock. I couldn't swallow drinking some red wines, but I think they were wines that had chemical in them. Okay. And they had too much phosphate in them. And I started the only way, but I wanted to drink and I loved the taste, I just didn't like what it did to me. And so I started with Gamay Beaujolais of all things, and it was a simple wine, but it was
easy to drink,
chemical free, and it was very drinkable, right? As a new drinker, it was a sweet enough wine, and from there I just kept drinking wine, and then as I traveled, I went to vineyards everywhere. So I've been to Bordeaux before, but all throughout Italy and New Zealand and United States and Chile, and I just find it fascinating. But one of my degrees is in architecture, and the idea of place, this thing's just going bad on me, but the idea of place matters. Yeah. Like I'm here and I can feel this place. And when we went into that room and we could smell the room, and upstairs, the drying room with the wood floors, and then now here with the limestone on the floor, it's like details matter. And as I drink, and I can drink different wines, it brings me back to that place. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a very human experience, right?
Yeah, I've been always keen on drinking wines which were expressing the terroirs, the own terroirs.
Right.
Each terroir is different, and I think it's important for the wines to really express where they're coming from. Otherwise, it's a industrial production, you know.
Mhm.
So expressing the terroir is for me very important. And we are very gifted here. We have a wonderful limestone terroir, so we can express this minerality, this freshness. And so the idea, not only for us because we've been here for 4 years only, but for all the previous owners and the winemakers of Clemence has always been to express this terroir, bring this freshness in the wine, or let the terroir express its freshness. So the first aspect has been the choice of the grape variety, because the Semillon is a very interesting grape variety. It's originally from Bordeaux. It's really the grape variety from Bordeaux for wine, white wine, and it's very tolerant to the terroir. It expresses the terroir. Some other grape varieties have very strong varietal expressions. Like the Sauvignon is always Sauvignon. With the Semillon, it really depends on the terroir you have. It will express so different
changes
on the Grave terroir than on our limestone terroir, for example, here on the plateau de Barsac.
It is also about the winemaker, though, the producer.
For sure, it's then you have to make a choice. And we had actually a few years ago we had to make the choice of the style of dry white wine we wanted to make, because we were quite well known and we were only producing at that time sweet wine.
Right.
And we decided to rebalance the production between Grand Vin Liquoreux, the great sweet wine, and we stopped the production of the second sweet wine, and instead of that started to produce dry white, as it was the case 2 centuries ago, because before we went into sweet wine, we were producing dry white in Sauterre. So we are restarting the dry white, and there was a question of which style to adopt. And the decision was made to really express the terroir, the limestone terroir. We could have made a wine that would be very similar to a Pessac Léognan, or a typical Bordeaux white wine with Sauvignon, the acidity, the freshness. We decided to do based on our Semillon, to really express the wine
and that's what we have here.
In this tension. So that's what we have here. Here we have Petite Élie.
Thank you for having me here and hosting me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
I took a previous sip by mistake. I gotta say it was really good.
So this is our first wine. It's the first expression of the Semillon. Very delicate, you know. Semillon is very delicate grape variety with a white flower expression. You know,
right.
Very elegant, delicate, and with this limestone terroir, you have freshness without acidity.
I love the floral, or not the floral, but also a little fruit up front. But then the finish is so smooth.
Yeah.
You know, I don't taste the gummy or anything. It's just clean.
Yeah.
It makes you.
It
makes you want
to
the next drink.
We're in biodynamic cultivation. We have no entrant. There's just a little bit of sulfur in the aging process, so it's very pure. The wine is, and that's always that has always been the motto of Clemence, of elegance and purity. You know, even on you will see on the sweet wine also.
Right. So this is okay. So we talked about this. You've taken your journey through science across the seas and back. You've been here now since the new owner's been here, right?
Since 4 years. In fact, my brother, who has done a very different background, he's from humanity studies. He's done agrégation in French for humanities, and he then moved into law, and then by chance into real estate. He was quite successful in this area, and then a few years ago he has always liked Bordeaux wines, and he wanted to buy an estate in Bordeaux. So as I was a bit quite knowledgeable about wine. He asked me to help him in that, so I helped him to make this acquisition of this estate. And when we discovered Clemence, it was interesting discovery because I didn't remember there was such a terroir here. You know, this limestone terroir is very rare. You find a bit of this limestone in Saint-Emilion, in Fronsac, on the plateau over there. But on the left bank, usually you have some Grave terroir. Grave terroir is different. And I discovered that personally, my personal taste goes to wines out of mineral terroirs. Could be limestone, could be schist, could be granite,
gravel,
and you get because you get this freshness in the wine, this minerality in the wine.
You have a complexity with it, which is what I like. That's what makes it interesting, right?
Yeah. If you depending on the winemakers, obviously, this complexity also depends on how you express your wine and your grape variety, your choice of the grape variety on the terroir and so on. Yeah. And I discovered also the Semillon. And the Semillon was really, it's not a grape variety that is well known, but it's a wonderful grape variety because it's very elegant, it's very delicate, it's expressing the terroir, but also it is it can be quite opulent and rich. You will see that on the sweet wine. And you can get a good balance of sweetness of the Semillon, richness of the Semillon, and tension and the minerality of the terroir.
And what's amazing is that you can make your mark here probably better than anywhere because it's such a unique spot. With this terroir is so much different, and the fact that this grape is not as well known a grape. Yeah. And it can be like, this is delicious dry. I've only had this sweet.
You know, when people, first you need to know Semillon, but even when people know Semillon, they are very surprised when they taste our wines because it's rare that people express the Semillon. First you need to have this terroir, and then once you have this terroir, you have to really decide to make it this way. If you make it the traditional way, like in Bordeaux, you will blend it with Sauvignon. Naturally.
Right.
Okay. And then the Sauvignon takes over aromatically because it is so varietal, so strong.
It's got a completely different mouth.
Yeah, it's a different style. And so you will get something different. If you only have Semillon on this terroir, then you can get this expression, and it's very rare. I rarely find this type of Semillon.
So it allows you to get an immediate presence once people understand what you have.
Exactly, and and Semillon, in general way, is a grape variety that needs to be understood. Mm-hmm. When it's young, when it's older, the richness of the Semillon will really express. You will see that on the sweet wine.
Right.
We have 216 that we drink afterward. But when the Semillon is young, it's a bit shy at the beginning, that it will express progressively. It's a wonderful grape variety for aging.
Right.
We know that this wine will age very well.
Is that right?
So in 10 years, it will be wonderful. Still, it is beautiful today, it's fresh today.
I buy so many white wines that 5 or 6 years later I open
and we are scared with white wine because we know that quite often
so
after 5 years it's going to be oxidized, it's going to be going to evolve in a bad way. Semillon is the reverse. Semillon is what brings actually to great Sauterne, the great sweet wine that we make in Sauterne, in Barsac and so on. The richness of the Semillon when it's aging is coming from the richness of the wine is coming from the Semillon.
Yeah.
Because the Semillon is the novel grape variety for aging. For aging.
So it's we didn't really talk about outside we did, but if I wanted to take a wine that has a challenge, this would be it for me. Because the whole Batteris concept of trying, okay, now all of a sudden we got rain the last 2 weeks, or we got humidity, and you know, it's so hard to control because it can turn south on you. Technically, the whole vineyard could go gray, and you can have, so you really kind of have to know what you're doing. And you just don't, I mean, each year you're going to get it's really like gambling a little. Each year you don't know.
Well, actually, I think agriculture and winemaking is starting to be like gambling. That every year is every year is different and brings new challenges. Some years it's the frost, we have to fight against the
Right.
frost. Some other years it's the mildew. Then in 24 we had to fight against the rain in September during the harvest. So we had to go and select the grapes and so on. So every year is different and brings us new challenges.
Yeah, I think.
And I don't think it's going to improve with
No.
the global warming and let's say
Right.
with the dérèglement climatique, the climate change, the climate
But
variations.
here's part of that, is that I believe that, and I know I've read a lot, that we can hold a lot of carbon. We can do carbon sequestration in the soil as farmers. In fact, I've heard studies saying as many as 12 or as little as 12 to 13 years, you can take care of a lot of this carbon problem. So as I look, if you really want to take a responsibility as a human on the planet, by doing the kind of farming that you're doing, this biodynamic is like one of the original form of organic farming or whatever we want to call it, regenerative farming. I'm going to call it original. No, original goes back thousands of years. But in our modern world, it works. So if you really think about it from that standpoint, you're leaving a positive footprint. This farm, the soil should improve on an annual basis.
Yes.
And all the experimentation that you're doing is going to be used for other crops in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And so I look at it from that standpoint. You don't really irrigate here. You're not using chemicals or anything like that.
No.
You're using cover crops.
Yeah.
You're taking into account the carbon.
Phytotherapy with the plants or preparations.
So you're leaving it better than when you started, which is, more than admirable. But more importantly, from a standpoint of a wine person, this is an excellent, delicious wine. And it's a very unique.
This is the
to be able to
objective,
get there.
because we shouldn't. We are very keen on respecting the nature and being very doing things properly with the biodynamic cultivation, with the crops, with everything we're doing basically to the biodiversity.
But none of that matters if you're not sustainable.
The birds, the insects,
Right.
everything we take care of to have a rich environment. At the end of the day,
You're a business.
the objective is to make good wine. So the objective is not to make a good garden. It's a mean to make good wine.
Right.
In fact, and it's interesting that the two are together. That to make good wine, we know that now we have to have a good garden. We need to have a good soil. We need to have a good microbial activity in the soil. And so we are very sensitive to it, and we participated in different studies to really measure where we stand, and we see that things are very positive in that sense. So it's reassuring that what we do is not an esoteric practice that we do it and then we hope it will go in the wine, but we know now by the science that the soil is very rich, is very in terms of microbial activity,
Right.
in terms of the fungus, the mycorrhizal networks and so on. So we have the good basis, and that give us confidence that because of this basis we have good wine, and
Right,
then
right.
we harvest in fact the wine is mostly made in the vineyard. Once we harvest it, then we have the wine. Then we have to do a good job in the cellar.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we have nothing in the cellar but sulfur, a bit of sulfur to protect the wine. So most of the work is done in the vineyard, and that's the reality.
Yeah. Well, in Burgundy, I noticed there's so many different growers, so many different people involved, and it's hard to see as you're going through one plot. It might be 10 different growers, right? And each grower has to cooperate, because one bad grower there can do damage to the other people,
Yeah.
right? But
Exactly.
I think I finally lost this. But we still have that one running. But that's so I saw you had Grand Crus, you had Premier Cru, and then you had Village Wines. And I tasted some village wines that were pretty darn good.
Mm.
And I had some Primaires that were better than the Grand Cru.
Mm.
So it really does matter. The winemaker itself still matters. And, and you could have a plot right next to another plot that's worth, I mean, that one area where Romani Conti and Latache and Eshto and Richbourg,
Yeah.
it's in an area not much bigger than this backyard here, right? And so why is that better than the hundreds of acres around it? And part of it, of course, is the fact that, that area is special, but at the same time, the winemaker has done something with what he's doing. So it matters. And of course, there's rarity involved.
Yeah, the soil is different. You cross the road. I mean, I was telling you about the Roman road that we have here in the state. We have this Roman road dating for more than 2,000 years. There's still those pavements basically on the ground, and it is separating two different plots which have different geology. One has more red sand on it. The other one, the stone is you can see the stone, on the ground. So it's too different. And I think people in the past and
treated it
because we're here. I mean, we're the product of centuries of experience, of making wine, of developing the agriculture in the region, and so the old people, I mean, they knew perfectly the difference of geology between the plots, and so the roads are separating quite regularly. When you have a road, it means that you have two different because they use basically the roads to separate the different terroirs, plots, and so on. So it's very interesting. Yeah. Yes, and in fact you can have you can do 10 meters and it's slightly different. The soil is very different.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. It's one aspect is the soil. The other aspect is how you treat the soil, donc your agricultural practice, basically. And the third one is the work of the winemaker, the cellar, and the way you want to make the wine, how he expresses the maturity of the grape when you make the harvest. Do you want to have something with more acidity, or you want to have something more mature? It's a choice, and people have to make choices, and sometimes it's a difficult choice because the rain is coming, and
what do I do?
Do you wait?
Like
do you
early?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's well, that variability, right? When we talk about scientific method, we're always trying to isolate the variables. But what we're talking really about, and what we're learning in agriculture, is it has to be holistic. You can't just isolate one thing. You really have to look at, because as soon as you're looking here, something's going to hit you in the back of the head, right? So, but I think that variability and the fact that that's what makes the winemaker the genius.
Yes.
And the viticulture, the guy in the field, what makes him the genius is they made the right choice.
Because this holistic approach is not contradictory to being in the details. That's the point. If you're not in the detail, then you may miss something very important.
Yeah.
And we've seen, and the critics you can hear about biodynamic cultivation quite often are based on this, because some of the winemakers have adopted biodynamic, but then they at some stage they've become a bit too holistic, and they forget all the details, because being able to make a good wine at the end, it's a series of details, and you have to master all the details, because if you miss one, you miss something, and you may destroy all your work, basically. So if you think you have to be too holistic, sometimes you just disconnect from the reality, and your wine will suffer from it. And that's it. And maybe the theory is good, but the practice
even the marketing matters. Because if you're not selling if you really think about, when I go to that Romani Conti area, if every bottle of wine I sold started at $8,000 and went up to 20 or 30.
Mm.
I'd have enough money to pay whatever labor I had, right? I could have one person per vine and I'd still be making money, you know, so it's, and you can see a difference, of course, they're using the horse, they're using, you know, manpower, and they have more people in the vineyard than others.
They've been using biodynamic cultivation for more than 40 years without saying it. I mean, they never marketed the fact they were in biodynamic. Now, all people know it. I mean,
Right.
people who have this knowledge or in the wine business know
Even
it,
Philippe
but
said-
the idea was not to communicate biodynamic. Biodynamic cultivation is a mean.
It's another tool. in the
Is a tool.
toolbox.
Is a tool.
Right.
Is a tool. It's not a philosophy.
Right.
For me, each one is free to choose his own philosophy, principle. Biodynamic is not a philosophy. For me, is a tool.
Right. I think when I talked to Philippe, he mentioned that when he started back in the family business, it was in 1981 or 2,
Mm-hmm.
and he started by bringing biodynamic in, but now he says, oh, I don't emphasize it so much because people call me crazy.
Right.
You know, so he's like, no, I just use it and just do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you're not restricted by it either that way either. So it's crazy. So what do you see for your future? You just tweak that, you know, what you have, just keep tweaking it and keep adapting to the climate.
Yes, we adapt. You know, it's slight improvements every year, and that's what we have to continue improving, because we should never stop saying now we're perfect, everything is fine, because in fact it's not the case. Right. And we spend our time actually with Frédéric Nivel, our technical director, who's been here for almost 30 years now. Once or twice per year, we go and exchange with other winemakers. We go to Burgundy, we go to Barbarie, we go to a bit everywhere, and we exchange with different winemakers. We've been to Champagne, we've been to the Rhone Valley, and we exchange with them on what we do in the vineyard, but also in the cellar and so on. And it's interesting because we always learn something, and or at least we get new ideas on what we should test. And I think what's important in this activity, a season is a year. A year is long. Imagine. So how many tests, if you make a test every year, how many tests can you do during your whole life? You know, and I'm not that young now nowadays, but even if I was starting young, you'll be limited. So you have to test a lot and make several tests every year to really improve your practices, to learn.
You have to pay attention so you don't make the same mistake, ideally.
Exactly.
In a perfect world.
Yeah, exactly. And those tests are never perfect because you cannot always control, you know,
so many different variables.
So many different variables.
Right.
So you cannot just make all the tests you want and so on. But that's why it's important to multiply the test. And before you make the test, you have to get ideas. So you get ideas by moving out of your place, because if we stay here, we don't get any new idea. You have to go and see what others are doing, because there's a lot of richness elsewhere. You see what others are doing, you try to think, does it apply to me? And then we decide together with Frédéric the test we're going to make in the vineyard, in the cellar, and so on. And then every year we're doing that, and that's how you improve your practices.
Right. Are you seeing, because I've seen it, alcohol in general, there's a reduction in drinking.
Yeah.
I went to the Kentucky Derby, and I had friends in Kentucky, and they for years have tried to get me to go down, and finally I went down last year. And it's a wonderful horse race, but it's I met my friend and all of his friends. They own all the bourbon companies, so they own like everything that you could think of bourbon wise. And I went to their parties, and first question, Mike, do you like bourbon? And I wasn't thinking, I just said, yes, I do, because I enjoy bourbon. Not a lot, but I enjoy bourbon and tequila, and I'm not a vodka drinker. I think that's for Russians and peasants. But I said, yeah, I enjoy bourbon once in a while. And they're like, so finally I said it, and they're like, great. And he goes, what's happening with the world? Why is it, because they're seeing less people drinking. And then I have a friend who I went to a wedding, and he had a big vineyard in Napa, and he wasn't picking last year. He grew his wine. He said, the demand and the cost are too high, so we're just not going to pick this year. And that kind of shocked me to see. Now, I think things are patterns. And for me, personally, I think there's nothing more important than wine for a meal. When I took took French classes in high school, learned how to speak French because there was a girl who moved in next door from Montreal who only spoke French. Okay. So I learned my French, but then I moved, and then I lost almost everything. So what I learned in that class, though, was my professor was a Jesuit priest, actually, and he talked to me about drinking, and he said, drinking should be literally to enhance your meal. Yeah. And that's how I look at drinking. So if I'm going to have a cocktail before dinner once in a while, it's to open up my palate. If I'm going to have dinner and I have oysters, I want a white wine to begin with. That's just me. And then if I'm going into beef, I want the different red wines. If it's a light beef, it's a heavy beef, I want. And I want to me, it's a lifestyle, but it's a way to enjoy the meal. I can't imagine having a meal like with real quality food with not having wine being part of it. That's me. So I see it as the world.
I think it's a practice, it's part of the civilization. It's true that it's part of the culture in France. That I would not I would not drink wine without eating anything. First, it's not good for your stomach, and to drink alcohol with if you don't eat anything.
Some people will drink.
So it's terrible. It's terrible.
It's terrible
for your health. I mean, so you have to eat something, and so it's typically for me it's typically a companion of a good lunch or dinner. With friends, we talk, we have a glass of wine, and it goes together with the meal and with the discussion. And I think it's
part of the good experience.
And it's and you have to control. Obviously, you have to drink in a moderate way. You control your how dizzy you are, and a bit of dizziness is sometimes pleasant. It's good. You can be. I see, for example, sometimes it happens if you want to have a discussion, a bit of a creative discussion. Some wines are very good for that. Some wines will help
specifically.
Yeah, they will. It will open some barriers. It will open your maybe some taboos or barriers you have, and you can be a bit more creative because you're a bit.
You're more open.
Yeah, you're more open. You're more open for discussion. Some other wines will be more meditative wines that you want to have at the end of a dinner. A good glass of sweet wine, for example, of Barsac, with a cigar, quietly, you want to rest, you calm down, after a very stressful day, and you want to be relaxed, and that will be a relaxing moment. So it depends on I think you have to adapt the consumption of the wine to the moment you're in, the context. You're alone, you're with friends, you're calm, you have more to be excited or to be creative. So depending on that, we can adapt, and that's the richness and the interesting part of the wine, which is to think about how to adapt it to the moment, to the context.
I was in. My daughter just got married in Tuscany, so I rented out Villa di Salva, which is a Tuscan villa sitting on a wine estate. But that's one of the celebrations where I'm going to drink a lot of wine. That's the way it is.
You sit there, no car to drive, so you're
right. And I can't. My body can't do that as much as it did back when I was younger, but for a celebration like that, it's the right time and the right place.
Thank you for joining the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Click subscribe and like for ongoing insightful conversations. Explore our webpage for show notes and additional resources. Visit our guests' webpage for deeper insights. Your engagement is the foundation of our journey, and until next time, keep pursuing wisdom.